Perfect. So let's get started. Good evening, good morning, everyone. If you're joining us for the first time, Spark is a mentoring initiative where we provide resources on career guidance, further studies, and several other peripheral skills development. And we've hosted several workshops previously in these areas, and you can find them all for free on our website. Next slide, please. Here are all the programs we are offering. And again, you can go to our website and find out more about them. I do have two updates for two of our programs. So the first one is Engage, which you're looking at on the left top. So that is a one-on-one mentorship program, and we have successfully launched our first cohort. Each of the 40 students who signed up have been matched with mentors with an expertise in the field that the student wishes to pursue a career in. We are planning to launch the next cohort in March of 2022. So if you're interested, you can go to our website and sign up in advance. The second one is Empower, which is on the right top, which we also recently completed with its first batch last week. This is a 4-part, highly interactive session spread over 4 Saturdays where we focus on English language development. So if this is something you are interested in, you can again sign up for the next batch in advance, which is likely to roll out in January or February of 2022. So with that, let's move to our session for today, which is under our Inspire program, where we showcase stories of alumni from diverse career paths. Next slide, please. We have with us Ketan and Suruchi, who are going to share their stories on getting their PhD from an Indian institute. So I'll do a quick bio for both of the speakers. So Ketan is currently an associate professor of pharmaceutics at St. John's University in New York. He received his PhD from ICT in 2013. And then he got his postdoc from Florida A&M University. His lab focuses on drug discovery, formulation development, and preclinical testing in the area of cancer and infectious diseases, among many other things. His lab is funded by NIH, and he has been recognized by Melanoma Research Scholar Award. We also have with us Suruchi, who is currently the CEO and co-founder of Ossus Biorenewables. Her company is based in Bangalore, and they provide hydrogen recovery as a service during wastewater treatment for process industries across the US and India. Before starting her company, she got her PhD from ICT Mumbai in bioprocessing, where she worked on the conversion of agricultural waste into ethanol as a transportation fuel. So the goal of today's session is to learn from both our speakers about their professional journeys, but more importantly, also about their experience when they were pursuing their PhD in India, what they did right, what worked well for them, and what they could have done differently. And the hope here is that they'll guide anyone in the audience who is pursuing a PhD specifically at an Indian institute. So before I hand it to them, some housekeeping. Next slide, please. We will be taking questions through this interface called Pigeonhole. So you can use this QR code that is flashing on the screen, or you can go to www.pigeonhole.at, use the passcode 30OCT21, and you can post questions as they come to your mind during the session or even after when we have the Q&A. You can even like questions posted by other people, and there's a higher likelihood of those most liked questions being answered first. Towards the end of the session, we'll also have an informal town hall where you can chat with the speakers directly by unmuting yourselves. One last thing, so you'll also, towards the end of the session, receive a feedback form link in the chat window. It'll only take you 20 seconds to fill this out, so we highly encourage people to do that. It really helps us get better at what we are doing, and the speakers are also putting in a lot of work for these sessions. It would be nice for them to know how you thought the session was. So with that, we can transition to the session, and I'll hand it off to Suruchi.
Thank you so much, Amar. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to mention that there's a possibility I'll be bilingual, English and Hindi. I hope that's okay with everyone, and just wanted to let you know this is only going to be a reflection of the journey that I have taken. It is just a disclaimer. It's in no way either advice in any form. It's just going to be a story of how I have reached here, and we'll tell you a little bit more about where here is in just a few moments. I'm going to start sharing my slides. First things first, it is an extremely bizarre experience to put down your career on slides. You're used to making CVs and they seem very formal, but just the idea of having, I thought I'd not even have 5 slides. To have more than that seems really surprising even to me. So please bear with me. Just to give you an overview of what I have done. I did my bachelor's in industrial biotechnology from Dr. MGR University in Chennai. I'll talk a little bit more about how that happened in the following slides, but since then I did my master's in proteomics and business from Macquarie University. Then I reached Udacity. I did my PhD in bioprocess technology, and lo and behold, I had a company sometime in 2017, something that I still have trouble believing. To me, it still seems like a lab that I'm leading, only it's not in an academic institution, to be very honest. To jump right back to a time that I certainly, just give me 1 second, I certainly was not having a very good time after my 12th standard. My father works in ONGC. It's a government company, and we had to move jobs every 5 years. So it was a readjustment. And here I had to make this huge decision of what do I do in the future. And I was so committed to joining Udacity for my undergraduate. And I remember back in 2003, 2004, the only overwhelming feeling that I recollect now was disappointment that I didn't get into the college. I was like, what am I going to do now? What's the thing to do? And at that time, I had a conversation with my father, which I thought really helped me. He said, you know what, engineering, no engineering, science, whatever you want to do, ask yourself why you want to do it maybe. For people who are fans of Simon Sinek now, to me, it seems really familiar, but the why I think of anything that we do is extremely important, because that's the only way you stay true to yourself and you're not judged by external factors like Sharma ji ke bete ne engineering kiya, mujhe bhi engineering karna hai. A senior of mine went to Udacity. Why am I not going into Udacity? So my father helped me understand that what is it that you want to do? Let's choose your branch of engineering if that's what you're interested in. And fortunately for me, having grown up in a household, he's a geologist. He's been in energy and petroleum science for such a long time. It was something I was really familiar with. And I said, chemical engineering has something to do with what you do. Seems interesting. Maybe I can get into it. And as it turns out, I didn't get into it. I got into industrial biotechnology for my undergraduate studies. And again, there was a period of disappointment. I was like, why is this not happening? Until I realized any field of science can contribute to the world that we live in. But for me, the turning point truly happened at the end of my engineering. Throughout my engineering, I have to admit, I was floating around with the idea of engineering mein admission ho gaya abhi. We will now get to the end of it, and then let's see what happens. To me, the turning point that really happened in my life was the final year project that I had to do at this institute called the Energy Resources Institute in Delhi. To those in the audience who might have heard of the place, the Nobel Prize that was awarded to the IPCC for the seminal report on global warming was authored by the then head of TERI. And to me, it was the first time I was exposed to a world of science which dealt with our day-to-day lives. And I realized that if I want to be in energy, I think bioenergy is extremely important. And this institute helped me understand exactly that. So call it luck, call it a combination of circumstances that worked really well for me. I stayed with the journey of energy. The only thing, however, that happened, which I thought, these slides move funny. Just give me 1 second. Only thing that happened, and there's a book called Ikigai that I would recommend to everyone who reads it. The only thing that happened to me at this point that helped define my career was the fact that I had a professor at my university who taught us a subject called mass spectrometry and proteomics. It was an elective, it was a fairly new branch of science, and it spoke about how you take proteins and you break them down in this high energy laser container, and then you put those back together, and lo and behold, you're able to identify the content of any mixture of proteins. And I thought there is nothing that could be more fascinating than that. And then I started to seek out Where can I get the skill set that is required for me to be really good at this? It was this fascinating field of science called mass spectrometry, which was new to me. It seemed fancy. It seemed like something that intelligent people do. And I said, you know what, this is the thing that I need to be doing for my master's. Fortunately for me, I could go down the rabbit hole and identify the university at which the term proteomics was invented, and it was in Australia. It was Macquarie University. And here I had a fantastic experience. I left the country for the first time. And I'm sure a lot of you have that question even now. Do I stay back in India? Do I leave the country? To me, it wasn't a question of leaving the country to settle outside the country. It wasn't much to do with my life, but it probably had a lot to do with the skills that I wanted to acquire. And fortunately, the course was fantastic. I managed to get into a dual degree where I did proteomics and I did business. At that time, I just thought, एक fee दे रहे हैं, 2 degree मिल रहा है, क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं? Only later in life did I realize that doing that business degree really helped me. Although at that time, I have to admit, I did not take it very seriously. I thought, this is fun. We get into a lot of group projects. You get to go out a lot. This is great. I aced all the business units. What could be better? But the proteomics that I did there, the professors that we had, these were guys who were in the trenches when computing wasn't around back in the 1980s. So they would tell you these stories of sitting all night and putting together peptides and coming up with the protein and identifying something and publishing this work. It felt absolutely amazing. I'd never experienced something like this. And it was passion at a level that I had not experienced in India before. Terry showed me what it was to do international science, where people come together and they have a cause. But this was something completely different. The novelty of searching for the answer, I learned at my master's in Macquarie. Having said that, please let the slides move. Having said that, passion for science, great. I learned how to design a good experiment. This, I think, maybe I came from a university that wasn't very good at teaching students the skills to do science. I feel like Udacity is fantastic at this, but my own university did not give me the skill set for this. And when I went to Macquarie, I learned what it meant to have controls, what it meant to have duplicates, what's the reason for this, and how important it is to be able to replicate experiments. Because if you do experiments without having the idea that someone out there in another lab should be able to get the same results as you, you're not doing science. You're just proving your bias or trying to push the narrative of a particular scientific question in a direction that you want it to go, which is not the way science should be done. And of course, mass spectrometry everywhere, these huge instruments costing millions of dollars, and the ability to look and see how you extracted rat proteins one day. There's a fantastic story that I have about this. My department was trying to see what the effects of global warming are on mollusks in the Sydney Bay area. So they would carry these mollusks out, they would extract the proteins, and then they would put it through the mass spectrometer after a series of steps. Amazing how you would then get a list of proteins that show you, yes, acid levels are higher. Yes, the mollusks are under stress. And this is visualizing something that you only hear about. This is 2007, 2008, 2009. Global warming was a topic, but it wasn't as much of a topic of research as it is today. So for me, it was absolutely fascinating. You could see the evidence of how the anthropological effects, what we as humans have done to this planet. I could see it with my own eyes. Now comes the not so good part. For me, what I learned was the basis of my own passion for science, but this was the first time I had to face competition. Competition from local students for whom DOE or design of experiment was bhai haath ka khel. They had been doing it since their schooling years, and they had the right skills required to take an experiment, design it, and then convey the results in a way which wasn't boring, it wasn't confusing, and they really knew how to present data in a way which made it fascinating. again, soft skills that I did not possess at the time. And I had to take, my learning curve had to be very steep to catch up with these people. So that was tough. First time I realized pay in science is extremely low until you leave academia for the industry. For the longest time, I had convinced myself that this is the price that you have to pay to do good basic science. It doesn't matter if the pay is low. But as an Indian student in Sydney, I was struggling. My parents weren't particularly well off. I couldn't turn to them for money, so I had to take on more part-time jobs, not just one. And that interfered obviously with my schooling and my paperwork and my studies. It wasn't a very good experience, but one that really made me say, what do I want to do? Do I want to do science, or do I want to earn a lot of money? And this is a question one needs to ask themselves quite early on. Otherwise, you're going to be going down the wrong rabbit hole. Too many layers to decision making. I couldn't get close enough to the mass spectrometer. There was a lab assistant. Of course, the hierarchy of academia. I was a second-year master's student doing my research thesis. My DOE was highly controlled. There were several people who had a say in what I could do. And there was a mass spectrometer that was being operated by an operator. I couldn't get to it, which means that I couldn't decide what changes I wanted to make. There is a separation step that happens, a chromatography process, which I wanted to control and I couldn't. And it was very frustrating for me at that point. I wanted to get close to this machine and work on it and play with it, and I couldn't do that. So here I was faced with two situations. I was nearing the end of my master's. I could stay back in Sydney like my fellow classmates did at the time, but not do science, because to continue in science was very tough. Or I had to find a PhD position, which was low paying, which meant that I still had to rely on my parents to support me, something that I really couldn't do. So what happened next? I had to ask myself, like I said, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to stay back in a lovely city? Sydney is amazing. The beaches, everybody's up at 5 a.m. and a habit that I've still not managed to get rid of. Or did I really want to do science? And I got lucky. I managed to meet Professor Lali at Udacity. I had a conversation with him about my skill set, and he had a conversation with me about the mass spectrometers that they had available in the lab. And he said, you can do whatever you want with it. You have full control on your DOE. Just let me know if you want to do it. And you have to clear an entrance exam. This from someone who's really bad at entrance exams, I was very worried about. But fortunately, I got through. And I have to admit, the first year there was absolutely amazing. This was the ability to be able to run my own mass spectrometers, manage it, handle it, be able to, decide what are the experiments that need to be done. The DBT center at that time had a CELDITOF, a QTOF, they had GCMS, absolutely fascinating stuff, and everything under one roof, and no operator between me and the system. I was essentially the operator, and there was nothing quite like it. But like everything in life, there are some good things and there are some not so good things. So for me, the good things came from, of course, I could indulge myself. Is exactly what I wanted to do, and I could do it. By the second and the third year, being a part of the DBT Center, I obviously got exposed to what is the actual functioning of government grants, how you have to define an outcome that aligns with policy making. So the people who are providing you funding need to get something at the end of it, whether it's a technology, whether it's an enhancement of an existing technology, or most importantly, is it solving a problem for them for which they don't have a solution? For us, the problem was one of crop burning. At that time, the conversation around what's happening in Delhi every winter was really heating up. Nobody's able to breathe. Why does everybody keep burning these crops? We need to find a solution. And I had entered the lab at a time when the conversation about 10-ton-a-day plant was already underway. So for me, it was a fascinating sort of very close bird's eye view, but a very close look at how do you actually put in those grant applications. And of course, you have to have interactions with people high up in the decision-making chain. MOP and stands for the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and DBT is, of course, Department of Biotechnology. And this access helps me later on, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but it's to me, the good thing here was the understanding of how to network. Now the not so good things. I am born in Bombay, but I am not from Bombay, so I don't know Marathi. And the first hurdle for me as a PhD student was the fact that there was a language barrier, and which for me snowballed into something that left me disenfranchised. I did not really have a peer network. Even now, I have just one friend from back in my PhD. But it left me at a sort of distance from the peer network that one really needs to support one through a PhD. It's long hours, it's a lot of stress. You're not doing something it's not a job where something new keeps happening every day, right? You're pursuing the same problem for 4, maybe 5 years at a time. And there are many times that you question yourself thinking, khatam ho payega kya? Am I really going to be able to do this? In your second year, when you define your problem, you tell yourself, Arey, 3 years is too much for this. This doesn't seem like deep enough. And by the time you get to 3 years, you're like, what happened in the last 3 years? Why is there only 1 year left? And I didn't have papers. I could not get around to publishing data quick enough. Also because of a lack of a peer network. You need people around you who supply you with the data that you require. Any decent paper requires at least 9 parameters, right? A single person cannot go about developing those 9 parameters. That's why you have groups. My lack of a peer network really prevented me from going out and publishing quick enough, or having someone even look at your work and review your work and say, you know what, this is the wrong direction you're taking. So to me, the freedom to run my own mass spectrometers, everything has a flip side. And the flip side was that I was essentially by myself for a majority of my PhD. And I was nearly at the end of it. And I was happy with the end results that I got. I was working on this molecule called a carbohydrate binding module, which is a very fascinating molecule. These apparently or ostensibly don't have any function, but are extremely critical to the working of these enzymes known as cellulases. Without the ability to bind, identify the carbohydrate which needs to be cut, the function doesn't happen. But if the only ability that they have is to see, how do you identify them? How do you decide what is their role in the general enzyme consortium? So it was really fascinating work, and using mass spectrometry really helped me. But in terms of my own PhD and the career trajectory, I was at a crossroads. I didn't know what to do next. Again, I went back to the fundamental question, why am I doing this? Why did I go about getting a PhD? Was it only to run mass spectrometers? Surely not. So I asked myself, what is it that you want to do? Go back to the roots of what you're doing, which is energy. And 2017, I have a degree. I am officially Dr. Suruchi Rao, and I was working at a company, and I had to ask myself, am I going to continue doing the same thing for a very long time, or am I going to shift gears? Fortunately for me, I did shift gears, and I decided to branch off, follow through with the disenfranchisement and say, academia is not for me. It's not something that I find myself truly attracted to. So I need to go about and do my own thing. At that time, I had a conversation with someone at my previous workplace where this was someone who owned a sugar mill or a sugar factory. And recently his wastewater treatment plant had been, his facility had been shut down because the state pollution control board said that, you don't have, you're not disposing of your wastewater well enough. Now you have to understand, this is someone who speaks only Marathi, and this letter is in English, and it's talking about pollution control board, and he had only one question that said, मैं तो पानी किसी को दे देता हूँ, मुझे नहीं पता कहाँ जा रहा है. I'm actually paying someone to dispose of it. How can you put a tala on my factory? And that to me was a moment where I realized, I think there's an opportunity here. Wastewater is very rarely recycled. It's only for large industries, and they do it at a cost. Imagine if we could bottle that in and connect that to a process of energy production. So in typical risk-taking form, I decided to move to Bangalore. The reason why I decided to move to Bangalore is you can actually get lab facilities for hire here, something that Bombay has now caught up to. It wasn't available at that time. And I started to work on this process known as microbial electrolysis, where you have microorganisms that generate electrons from the carbon content of wastewater. Those electrons can be used to then produce hydrogen gas. Fantastic stuff. I thought if this works, I think it's going to change my life. Unfortunately for me, it worked out. It was an interdisciplinary field. So I had to hire mechanical engineers, I had to get chemists, I had to get biologists. And for the first time, I had a community. And that community helped me develop this technology. But all of that started once again with the fact that I went and spoke to someone at Shell. And they told me, hey, you should apply for this entrepreneurship program known as the Shell E4 program. And even if you have early stage data about the science that you have, see if you can pitch us something. And at that time, once again, I had advice from people around me, from the entrepreneurship community, who said, it's not about the science, it's what problem you're solving for them. And 2018, I pitched to Shell that they have the largest source of wastewater, surprisingly, for an oil company. This is something known as energy water nexus, something that doesn't get spoken about, that to draw out traditional fossil fuels, gas or crude oil, you actually have to use a lot of water, and that water does not get recycled. So I pitched to them saying, hey, you have a lot of wastewater, you don't really know what to do with it, you spend a lot of money on it. Imagine for a second if you could produce hydrogen gas. As the energy transition is happening and you're moving away from fossil fuels, this would be ideal for you. Waste value, but not a C1 carbon fuel, carbon-free hydrogen. It worked. Combination of bravado and the knowledge that I could make a good pitch really helped me. Self-awareness is extremely important. I have a tendency to be overly apologetic and humble, but in situations like these, you can't be. You really have to harness everything that you have inside of you. And 2019 December, we were able to qualify this pilot that we did with them, about 8 kilograms of hydrogen per day. And since then, we've managed to do a few good things. I am currently, this is a hotel room, I'm in Jamshedpur. We're testing out our technology for the steel sector. We're in the fields, we're in the trenches. It can't get any more real than this. The smell of this place can't get any more real than this. So it has been a long journey, but a lot of this has come from support from the corporate world. There was a question someone had asked before about, industry funded PhDs. Yes, of course. We are, after all, the quickest route to testing technologies that are actually solutions to problems that they have. And as long as you know how to go about addressing those problems, funding is not an issue. I do admit that I knew that I had the ability to convince someone about a technology and how to have a good presentation, which goes back to the soft skills I had picked up when I was doing my master's. And then during my PhD, the ability to network, or the need to network, especially amongst decision makers, again, that came in handy. And the complete lack of fear, when you're by yourself for such a long time, you never question कि मुझसे हो पाएगा या नहीं. There is no one else. कोई और नहीं है. आप नहीं करोगी तो कोई नहीं करेगा. And that really helped me sort of get to this point. But because I never had a peer network, I spent a lot of time picking the people on my team. Not just their skill set. You get a lot of people with very good skill set, but you need people with similar mentality, the ability to take risk, the ability to sort of say, nahi, karke dikhayenge. Fail faster, but you get there quicker, and never say give up. That freedom I had because I was the founder of my own startup. But ultimately, all the hoopla aside, the CEO thing means nothing. I'm just leading a team and we're all working towards the same goal. So yeah, that's my journey. I don't know if that's 20 minutes or more than 20 minutes, but thank you so much. Ketan, sorry if I took too much of your time.
Thank you, Suruchi. Anu, could you add me to the spotlight, please? Yeah, so Suruchi, what you've achieved is really impressive and a very compelling and lovely story. For me, I think your enthusiasm for the energy space was very evident as you were talking about your journey. And then my biggest takeaway from your story is, the why. I think most of us do not really ask that enough or often enough. Flow mein ja rahe ho, karte raho, I think that doesn't always work. So I certainly did not have that kind of clarity back when you did. I think you talked about asking yourself that in high school. So I think that was impressive. Also, finding a right mentor, I think I don't know if it's spoken about enough, but it can dramatically, I think, alter the course of your journey, right? So in your case, it was your father, but may not be for everyone. So go seek out someone, people. There are enough people who would like to help and guide you. And I think lastly, I wanted to thank you for portraying a very unbiased and honest view of all stages of your life by showcasing both the good and the not so good, because that is reality, right? So yeah, I think with that, not taking away too much time from Ketan, we'll transition to Ketan's talk. Thank you so much, Suruchi.
Yes, so you can see the slides, right? Okay.
Yes,
so I would put the title as Anand to America, an unanticipated journey. It was literally from rowdy to researcher. So I'll just give a glimpse that's what I came across, my pathway. Started B.Pharm from Anand Pharmacy College, then Bombay College of Pharmacy. I did my master's. And you can see the Mumbai city. That's the main reason I came to Mumbai. UD I did my PhD. I graduated in 2013, immediately joined postdoc. I finished in 2016, and then, of course, St. John University. So I'm there with St. John since 2016, and everything was good. Got tenure promotion just last year. So Mumbai it is. How I landed in Mumbai. So again, just like everyone, we all have a dream of MBBS. But I'm not sure this is the right picture at this right moment. But then do not consider with the current situation. Chand says today koi sapna. So you literally lost it. That with a few points, but hey, that's as Suruchi mentioned, that is a father or uncle to guide. So father and the mama said, let's join B.Pharm. Pharmacy is evergreen, and that's how that was literally. So that's why it is unexpected, because I was planning to do some computer engineering and then ended up in pharmacy. So the first struggle, a guy coming from the Gujarati medium, even the science was in Gujarati medium, and all of a sudden the first class you hear anatomy, which is esophagus and stomach and everything, and you have no idea what's going on. So first year was literally in to understand English to Gujarati and Gujarati to English dictionary. But then we catch up, like everyone else catch up the way it progressed. So it worked out very well. The good part is the IIT GATE was. Am I good, Amar?
We lost your slides,
Yeah.
Ketan.
Ketan, you need to start sharing your slides again.
Okay. I'm having a bad day.
Recording in progress.
Sorry again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, and we can see your slides as well.
Yeah, sorry again to everyone. This is the worst time to have a Windows or any kind of update, but they will not leave me. I know that. So before that, let me finish my talk. So again, fortunately, as IIT was not online, was multiple choice. So I finally have a 3 choice as you move on to the industrial job, which is again, not many people choose a career bachelor, then get exam, GRE or IELTS, and going abroad. And of course, there is always a one choice, leave the pharmacy, go do some IT or business or whatever you want. So again, I chose GET, and then I gave in 3rd year, final year, I got All India rank 1. So then I thought, let me finish my master's year. Again, the US was not in the plan anywhere. So I got All India rank 1. I went to Naipur Mohali, then I went to MS University Baroda, and then of course IIT Kharagpur, because being I had a good rank, I was able to get you into many university. However, is it when I visited Mumbai for the first time and I see, okay, this is the best city, so to spend some more time, and that's the reason I came to BCP. At that time, I was not aware about UDCT, and that's one of the problem I would say, that many times as a bachelor, we are not aware about what's available to you. So some of them are, which I know, I visited those places, which was a good decision, but some of the places which I have no idea, like UDCT is really great institute, and that point of time, BCP Pharmaceutics was one of the top program in the country. So again, I did my master's at Bombay College of Pharmacy. So from bachelor to master's, you are just trying to understand whether the research is your cup of tea, or you are like skeptical, or you have really a concrete plan to move forward. And that's where in between, Dr. Nagarsankar was my guide, and she really put some sort of research thought in my brain. I met Professor Vavia always, and I really like his personality, the way he talk, and maybe down the line you will see 5% of Professor Vavia in me when I'm talking. And again, second hurdle was ICT entrance, but then it worked out very well with me. That's I gave ICT entrance. I again got a top score, and then I fortunate able to join his lab. Now third part, the MS to PhD. And now it's time to decide career. The city is good, great, you love it. But then what? After master's, you have a choice to go industrial job, PhD, India versus abroad. And then again, same choice, I quit. But then by the time I had so much interest in research developed by the time I did master's. And then I thought I'm planning to work in cancer. And that's a glitch, that when you do master's, you should have some clear thought that I want to do PhD in this area, and I want to learn, and I want to pursue further studies in this area. Otherwise, what happens is, okay, chalo job nahi mila, masters kar lete hain, or PhD kar lete hain, stipend to milega. That's not a right approach, because you are investing 5 years of your life into PhD, and then again, so it's wise to think before at the end of the masters, or even as soon as you're about to finish the masters, you should have job, like you should join PhD. But anyways, so this is what happened, the conversation between like my last year semester of masters, that I applied for some of the job. I got a job interview, and then they are like, are you planning to go back for PhD? Because they don't want to train you for 3 months and then you go back to PhD. So with all honest answer, I said yes. An interviewer with this the expression, the word he did not mention, but he meant to say, why you are wasting our time? Go to higher education, GTH means. So then I decided, let me join Premier Institute, ICT, and Professor Vavia's group with my entrance exam. And again, there was again bifurcation, either India, either abroad, but maybe not enough knowledge to apply abroad, or maybe I thought it's continuing, like 2 years you're finishing master, and then you're getting ICT, which is again a big tag. So, and the research is always like, it's very good in ICT back then and now as well. So now, kind of research, liking research, ideas to pursue, dream to chase. And that's where, when you like research, you really want to go with the PhD, but then you finalize the goal. This is the field I want to do my PhD. Meeting Professor Vavia was a game changer over there. ICT entrance again was a tiebreaker. If I did not get through ICT entrance, I would have considered GRE and come abroad. And again, not enough knowledge of pursuing it abroad. So I continue my PhD in ICT. And that was one of the best decisions of my life, I would say. From ICT, I would say some scientific like a synergistically rigorous PhD with a vigorous mentor to be a work pressure immune, independent and versatile human research mentor, the way Dr. Vavia is a wonderful human being, and of course, very strict. So that's why, and sometimes you make yourself PhD vigorous or rigorous, or sometimes you expect your mentor to do that job and then make your PhD rigorous. In my case, it was, we both were like too much into the research by the time I joined his lab. So it worked out very well. Decision to stay in academia came out in second or third year that I said, okay, I will not go to industry. I saw him, I saw Dr. Patrawale, I saw Dr. Devarajan, Dr. Amin, wonderful people, wonderful scientists, and the kind of freedom they enjoy. So I really thought, okay, let me, to identify your strength is the key here. That's where I'm good at. If you're good at business, just go with it. If you're good at academia, teaching, go with it. But the problem is, who will tell us, who will be Jamban for Hanuman, that to tell you that what are your strengths? So that's where ICT helped me figuring out what are my strengths are, like the teaching or its research or service. So postdoc, if you want to go to academia, India or abroad, you really need a good postdoc. That's what they're expecting nowadays. And that's where, if you want to come to US, like I finished my PhD in 4 years, and if I have to come to US for a postdoc, I really have to fill the gaps. It's not only, so what is the expectation? So that's one thing. Job market. When you are studying something, you have to be ready that what people will expect from you. Like postdoc is like superhuman being. Any professor who hires you as a postdoc, they will expect you to do everything possible in the world. So that's where I have to fill the gaps with some interdisciplinary research, put some publication, put some paper, because without that, nobody will consider you that you read some research. And of course, presentation will sharpen your presentation skill, like poster and everything. So most fruitful learning from my PhD, that's a spelling mistake there. A very diverse research exposure, because the way ICT is set up, I'll talk about that in the next slide. And teaching and mentoring skill that I learned from ICT, that was really was very, very helpful in my postdoc to associate professor, and from associate to my professor journey as a whole. So here, I would say, this is where you have a very diverse exposure, active and passive. You do research in one topic or 10 topics, that's one thing. You have 40 other PhD students around you. Those are your friends, colleagues. You, as I said, the conference place is always cricket ground, Munna canteen. You go there, sit there, you talk about their research, they talk about your research, like some difficulties you solve, without having like, somebody will steal my idea. There was nothing like that. People can steal your idea, not your brain. So again, that with that process, it was a really wonderful time, and that diverse research exposure helped me. And you can see on my wall that when I joined St. John as a assistant professor, it's not all the time you start with because you did postdoc in cancer nanomedicine, you will do, because that requires lots of funding. So I have to wait for the funding to come. Meanwhile, you have to publish your student, you need to train student. And that's where this versatile training and mentoring was helpful. As I mentioned on the slide, from tablet to gene delivery, I learned at ICT, from microcentripede to HME. So you can see all the extreme. You learn some from your research, some from others' research, some from your mistake, and mostly from others' mistake that don't do this. But anyways, and this is another part, when the ICT was not completely infrastructure to do everything you want. So basically, you have TIFR, you have BARC, you have IIT Bombay, and this eggs I got from Uran, and this zebrafish I got from Kharghar, and then extract. My cancer study, I did it in Kharghar, Mumbai. So this is pretty much, and Professor Vavia said, that's when he see your presentation, he will say, I want this kind of data. And I said, sir, we may not have this machine. Okay, kuch nahi. Kahin pe bhi jaake karo, par karo. But because he knew it is available somewhere in Mumbai, and that's a great part, that to be in ICT. And at the same way, some of the institute, they approach us that when we do formulation development. So again, all these things put together good publication, good presentation, give you wide exposure. And I visited almost every corner of India during my PhD, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. All the conference, I just put my poster, and Professor Vavia was always very, very supportive that go out, because the research we are doing is for the society. It's not just you talk in the lab and talk in the ICT. It should go to the public. So, but anyways, that's really gave me a great idea, starting from procurement, budgeting, how to work in the minimal resources for some of the project, how to jugaad, you can say jugaad is basically do it in that, again, helpful anywhere, India or USA. Presentation skill, of course, I learned from him only. Grant writing skill, that's where I received my first grant in the 4 month itself, because I had that experience. Then in postdoc, the grant writing experience became more sharp, more clean. And mentoring skill, undergraduate, the BTech student used to come, and I think Amar knows, or maybe Vidur is here. Professor Ravia used to come. They used to visit Professor Ravia. Those who visited Professor Ravia's cabin, they will see the cabin is inside. Those who, the undergrad student comes, and sir take them out, and they said, "Are isko thoda research karna hai, thoda karwa do." And I said, "Okay, well, let's do something." And as soon as sir leaves, I said, "Let's start with the test tube washing." So I'm thinking Amar was one of our brilliant BTech undergrad student, and we did some research together, some collaboration. So everything is put together. It was a wonderful experience, enriching experience at ICT. So again, with some of the previous speaker already mentioned, that's choose a lab or a project rather than always go for the universities, which is maybe you might end up getting wrong mentor. That can happen anywhere, India, US. So this is a journey of recognition, relation, and research. You will see everything there. There is nothing in the world that I haven't done, and there are few more are like romanchak journey, or whatever you can say. So from Lal Baksha Raja to, I would say, the restaurant around the Matunga, one of the best place for eating and drinking. And then I got a chance to go to Germany with some conference presentation. So overall, it was thoroughly enjoyable journey at ICT in terms of research, and it was very much enriching. And that's where the Mumbai, I'm so grateful that I came to Mumbai, and that has changed my perspective of thinking, then changed my life in many ways. So that was a wonderful decision I came. But yes, with some more guidance, if I would have got it like this mentoring program, I would have done a little better, I would say, in terms of publication and choosing the postdoc lab, and then moving forward in the journey. So I would say academia versus industry, this is a very common question to everyone. So if you are really interested in research and everything, then come. Otherwise, really, I wouldn't say academia is the place, because soldier is never off the duty. So as assistant professor or a professor, always there is a manuscript lining up. Always there is a grant lined up. There is no work Sunday, Saturday, or nothing like that. So, but it's a salary, resources, or position versus the freedom of research. That's one day you want to do HIV, one day you want to do cancer, one day you want to do diabetes. That's your freedom. Education to the student, and recognition. You get more recognition as a research paper and everything, as a grant once you become professor. But of course, salary will always be much lesser than what you have in the industry, or you do a business. But, and this is, and again, I don't want to overlap, but I reiterate everything what Dr. Tej Chokse and Dr. Prajakta Dandekar mentioned in the previous session of Spark Mentoring. A wonderful video. It's available on YouTube. And pretty much Dr. Dandekar just mentioned about the academic opportunity grant and everything in India, versus Dr. Tej Chokse mentioned about pretty much choosing a graduate program and what to expect from a graduate program. So I would strongly encourage you to visit that. I will not just go over it again, but they are like 100%. That's what our feeling as a professor. Ride on the wave, make an extra effort, just be a little ahead on the wave. Make sure your surfboard is little distinct from other. That's what you need, just to stand out a little bit. And predict, this is what I think the takeaway from my side, that predict something. So if you predict that you will have to do the postdoc, don't do it at the last moment. Decide it just take it on third year of PhD that you want to do this, and start filling the gaps. So this is what you need, this is what you want your resume. that people will look at, and I'm sure you will succeed. And that is only, everything required lots of hard work. Trust me, it's ICT was more than 12 hours of research every single day, not even holidays. So yes, we went to Juhu Chowpatty or wherever it is, Chowpatty Beach, but we come back to the lab and we work. The only way you can earn money without putting hard work is invest into crypto. Other than that, there is no other alternative. I'm sure I did not take much of your time, and I'm really sorry for this technical glitch. I will have to see what's wrong with this update and everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ketan. That was a really, really nice talk. I really appreciate how you shared all your struggles candidly. I think that is one of the essences of these sessions, is to see and inspire people that, you can overcome, and no matter where you're at, you see these people who have achieved such great things, you can also do that. So appreciate that. I really, actually, one thing that I connected with, which you said, was go for everything that comes your way, do everything that comes your way, meet different people, talk to different people, experience all the diverse experiences, because you won't know when they'll come in handy later. I really like those bullet points in one of your slides where, you spoke about all the different things that you need to do in your current job. And you also spoke about how you actually use the experiences that you had in the past to help you in this current job. So that was really nice. And then I think one more point, we again circled back to the same point of having the right mentors. In your case, Professor Vavia, it was quite apparent. So it was nice to see that, again, reiterating that point is, don't be scared to go and look out for mentors, because they are the ones who help you identify your strengths and overcome your weaknesses. So again, thank you so much. That was a great talk. No worries about the technical glitches, it happens. Anyway, so let me start sharing my
I just had one more thing to add. Ketan, impeccable impression of Dr. Vavia. That's it. Okay.
All right. Just bear with me for a second over here. All right. Great. So everybody, I just want to again mention that you can go to www.pigeonhole.at and enter the passcode 30OCT21 for asking your questions. You can also, again, like questions that have been already posted. And that's where we'll be taking your questions and answers. So please head over there. One of our team members will again post the link in the chat. So you can also use that to go to the website. All right. Let me switch to the questions. Okay, so far we have one question. It looks like it's gotten 3 votes. Again, I encourage everybody to post more questions. Let's go with this question first. So I think the question is about industry-funded PhD in India. How can private sector fund PhD students, or what are the opportunities for candidates to approach industry to fund their PhD? Maybe Suruchi, do you want to take a stab at this at first, if you know of any opportunities, and then we can go to Ketan about this?
I think it's very important to remember that if you're talking about a PhD, you need a principal investigator who then takes you into his group, and then you do the PhD. So when you talk about private sector funding, funding can come from the private sector or from the government, but they usually go to the principal investigator. So the one advice that I have for anyone wanting to apply for a PhD, don't worry about where the funding comes from. Worry about where you want to spend the next 4 to 5 years of your life. So go speak to as many principal investigators, professors, people out there. Look up what they do, look up their papers, talk to their students, see what sort of a lab it is, see the sort of work that they do, see if it's something that aligns with what you would want to do over the next 4 or 5 years, and then sort of talk to the professor, have a very honest conversation. I think that was the one thing common between Ketan and I. Before we started, we had the opportunity to speak to our advisors, and you should not do a PhD without first at least having understood, who it is that you're spending so much time with. You absorb them. The work that you do, this is the longest you're going to spend. So I absorb the way I speak from Professor Lali, for sure. You will see that in me, just like what Ketan mentioned. So have those conversations. Don't worry about the funding. If you've got a good proposal, and if your principal investigator, your professor has the money, you have the right skill set or the intention, you will get it. It's backwards front if you say industry fund करता है क्या? करता है, आपको नहीं करेगा, उनको करेगा, आप उनके पास जाके बात करो.
Perfect. Anything to add, Ketan? I think that you absolutely nailed it, Suruchi.
She addressed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if there are any other questions. Okay, so I think they want a little bit more advice on how to choose an institute, is what I'm gathering from this. And how do you, I guess, portray yourself so that you get a good PhD fellowship? I think it's just sort of continuing with what you answered in the previous question, but maybe if you want to shed some more light on this particular question on how to choose institutes and how to find guides. Maybe Ketan, you can start first.
So she's M.Pharm Pharmaceutics. So I would say institute, I'm not sure she's asking in India or abroad, but I believe right now she's asking India. So she mentioned like all the institutes. So you want me to name 100 institute? I don't know. But then, yes, that's a key point. If you are in second year, look for the institute where you see your kind of research. And that's where lots of, even for PhD, to postdoc, literature search is the key of everything. Spend sleepless nights, search everywhere possible that where your research area is aligning, because you don't want to do a PhD in something altogether different from what you did master's. So look for those research area, look for the people who are publishing in that area. You don't want to stuck to a lab, there is no publication. You really don't want to go there. And the funding is almost very important. So you can be upfront. That's whether you are accepting with funding or without funding. So let's say for ICT, it was a UGC funding, correct? So LinkedIn is very good network. So you go to conference, number one, see what kind of posters people are presenting, write down their name, email or whatever. And second thing is a LinkedIn. So again, networking is the key here, that how many people you are outreach, get their number and just contact them. But then do it before the 4th semester of your master's. So you have a clear idea. You don't want to have a gap in between your master and a PhD.
Great. Any advice on how you looked about for institutes, Suruchi? Did you have a clear goal that ICT was the only place you were going to go do a PhD at?
No, I sought out. So I had one of two options. I could go to IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay. So I had a list of institutes that I thought I would like to join for PhD. Exactly like Ketan mentioned, it's a lot of homework. You've got to seek people out. It's not going to be directly evident. Everybody only has a list of publications. They talk about their research areas, but that initial list was definitely based on my personal choices when I was doing my engineering. You have the internet today. There is no information that you want to find that you can't find. And with LinkedIn around, as Ketan mentioned, you have no excuses. Do your homework. You should know what institutes that are out there. If you don't know, and if you're in your M.Pharm, I would say take a break, do the homework, then go back to whatever assignments you have coming up, because you have your whole future you need to plan.
And go there and visit personally. I would like to add, just see the institute. You really like it there. So yeah. And I'm glad Suruchi did not go to IIT Bombay. You might have 6 year or 7 year for PhD.
Goodness.
Who knows?
Actually,
All
probably.
right. Great. So I don't see any questions on the board, and anyway, we're past our time. But maybe to wrap up,
Anu,
we can
can I
just
ask
ask one
sorry.
last question. Yeah, I was going to see if Amar had a question. I myself had a question, but maybe Amar, you can go first.
Okay, so I think in kind of staying true to the theme of the session, which is getting the most out of an Indian PhD experience, I have a question for both Ketan and Suruchi. So if there were 3 things you wanted to say to someone in the audience who's either doing their PhD right now at an Indian institute or is considering doing that, what would that be? Just 3 things, and it could be a kind of recapitulation of what you've already talked about in your talk. So we can start with Ketan.
I would say first thing is get a diverse PhD experience with a narrow focus on your PhD, but at the time, just get glimpse of whatever other people are doing in the institute. And the second thing is publish and present. That is one of the limitations I see in many PhD students, that they are not realizing the value of publication when you want to pursue something at the next level. And third thing, finish it within 4 years. Just don't drag it. And the thing is the exit plan. After third year, you may have tons of idea on your brain. Hold on to it. Do it in your postdoc, but do not just drag with your research thought and keep the PhD for 6-7 years. 4 years is or 5 years is a good one.
Thank you, Suruchi.
If you're looking to join a PhD program, just ask yourself why you're doing it. I know Ketan mentioned that, and I will reiterate his point. Don't do it because I hear stipends are better now, but that shouldn't be the reason to pursue a PhD. It's a lifelong commitment. It's not like a master's where you can shake it off and move on. You could completely change careers if you wanted to, but a PhD is something that sticks. So be very sure of why you want to do it, and you want to do it because you do have an interest in research. It's very easy to get it confused with, I didn't get a job, so a PhD seems like a good alternative. It's not like that at all. It's a very different kind of commitment. Second point I would like to say is do your homework before you join. When you're doing your PhD, be very sure before you submit that document that says this is what I'm going to be working on for the next 3 years. Just be sure you know what you're doing, which means having conversations with your advisors, having conversations with your peer group, and asking them, this is what I'm aiming for. Does it sound like a good idea? But that doesn't mean you turn this into a democracy. Everybody will have opinions. You take what you think is the best for you, but make sure you're out there, you're sharing, someone's holding you accountable. Otherwise, it'll get very difficult, very lonely, very quickly. Third to me, third most important thing that we seldom talk about is that mental health is an extremely crucial thing when you're doing your PhD. So if you feel like you have mental health issues, I'm not saying you shouldn't do a PhD, but you need to start building routines in place that take into account, for example, if you have anxiety and you're about to start a PhD and you know the commitment is going to be intense, you either have a conversation with your advisor very clearly saying, I have anxiety issues and this is going to be my working schedules, and I'm going to stick to this routine, and they understand, so they don't have expectations from you which are unrealistic, and you don't end up disappointing them as well. Or if you feel like during your PhD you're starting to have anxiety issues, you're starting to have mental health issues, make sure you go out and speak. if you find that your advisor is not in that headspace, and I get that they're extremely busy. If you feel like your friends in a similar headspace and they're not able to give you because they don't have any to spare themselves, seek counseling. It's 2021. You can't be ashamed about getting the help that you need. I think that's something not many people talk about. Academia is extremely hierarchical. People are afraid to speak out because power structures are tough. So the more you help yourself, the better the outcome will be. You'll be happier at the end of it instead of struggling. So that's the third point. Hope that helps someone.
That's a very, very important point. I think I agree with you. It's seldom spoken. Great points, both Ketan and Suruchi. And maybe with that note, we'll end the Q&A session. Amar actually asked a question that I was going to ask. So it's a very, very good stopping point. I'll just take a quick few seconds to wrap up this session. Before that, I want to talk about our upcoming session, which is a session again in the Inspire Career Guidance series. And this will be on a day in the life of a management consultant. And as a management consultant, people solve complex business and operational problems. You can have a lasting impact on a diverse set of business and governmental organizations, helping them optimize their performance, maximizing their growth, etc. So if this is something that excites you, definitely join us for the next session on the 13th of November. We'll have Radhika and Shashank speak about their own career trajectories. So with that, we are at the end of our workshop today. Firstly, I do want to thank Suruchi and Ketan for their time today and for taking the time out and sharing their career journeys, some valuable tips along the way. Very, very, very inspiring stories. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure that the audience echoes the same sentiment. I also want to thank our team at Spark Mentoring and the ICT social media team for their continued support and doing all the behind the scenes work that makes these sessions possible. Please do leave your feedback for this session. We love to see how we are doing and what we can do to make these sessions even better and helpful to you guys. It'll just take 20 seconds. And also, I'm sure our speakers would love to see what you thought of their stories today. You can join our WhatsApp group. You can follow us on our social media channels, visit our website. You'll get all the timely updates and registration links necessary for joining our sessions. And also, if you like these sessions and you think your friends may benefit from this, your colleagues may benefit from this, please spread the word. That's how we're going to grow, and hopefully our sessions benefit more and more people going forward. So with that, thank you all again for joining in today and bearing with us while we faced a few technical challenges. You may exit the webinar. If some of you wish to stay back and unmute yourselves to chat with us, a few of us will be hanging out here for a bit, and we would love to hear from you.